welcome to day 6, everyone. Before I get started, I just want to make sure everybody can hear me and see me. So just throw a one up in the chat, or good morning, or something, so I can make sure I'm heard. And we're not wasting any time. Let's go. Cool. Morning. Also, so it looks like we are in here. Cool. So welcome to day 6 of our 7-day real estate exposure on how to get started in real estate. And today we got a special guest, Mr. Richard Panier. He's going to be talking about mindset before entering into multifamily. And so our intentions for today is to learn the following: how to get started, the mindset and daily tasks that he has, or in order to get started in the mindset shift before entering into multifamily. How is he analyzing deals? What systems is he using? How to manage the properties, and then how to leverage and scale from there. Now, a couple quick housekeeping rules. A lot of gems will be dropped, a lot of knowledge will be dropped. So if please take notes, have a pen and paper ready for notes. And if you don't like using pen and paper, just go ahead and bring up like Google Sheets or Google Docs and take notes on there. Go ahead and pull that up now. All parties will be muted, so everybody won't be talking at the same time. We can actually hear. But if any questions should arise, just use the question and answer section or the chat section to answer questions. And then at the end of the session, if we didn't answer if your questions, we can bring you out one by one. You can answer any of us any questions, and then we'll go from there. So now let's get into it. Let's have some fun. All right, so who am I? I'm Bryant Miller. I am a full-time realtor and real estate investor. I am under a brokerage called Maximum One Realtor Partners. And under that brokerage, I have several companies. One for my main real estate company, Bryant Miller Realty Group, where we run and manage a realtor team to serve our clients. And then I'll also have an investment team that handles my flips and buying homes and things of that sort. My educational background, I have an associate's degree in business and then a bachelor's degree in supply chain management. And that led me into getting into real estate. And I use both of those to kind of make my business run seamlessly by using like different Six Sigma processes and things to make my business run smoothly. I'm also a mentor for the new hire agents that come through my brokerage, or through the brokerage rather. And by law, you have to close 3 deals with a mentor under some guidance before you can be off on your own. And so I help the new agents come through and close their first deals. And so for investors, I help first-time investors close their first deal in order to build a full-time income through real estate investing strategies as well. And we'll talk more about that a little later on how you could get started on either one of those. But today I have Mr. Richard Panier. He's a college graduate of FAMU. He's a real estate investor. He does almost all the different strategies: fix and flip, buying homes, Airbnbs, multifamily. He has a mindset that's off the charts, especially for his age. And I just want to bring him out real quick. Can you hear me, Mr. Richard?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hearing, I got your video coming. There you go. Cool. So I always like to start off with gratitude. And so I'm very grateful that you are here to take the time out of your busy schedule to talk to us about how to get started in multifamily.
And definitely an honor to be here. Appreciate you having me, man. So yeah, like you said, I'm a graduate of Florida A&M University, graduated in 2013. I've been in real estate ever since graduating. Bought my first property, I want to say probably 4 months after graduating. I have dabbled in a little bit of everything from fix and flips to buy and hold, Airbnb, and multifamily as well. And got my undergrad in accounting with the 2 minors, one in psychology and the other in global security. And it's definitely a pleasure to be here and looking forward to, to have this conversation.
It's a good deal, good deal. And so, all right, so we're gonna go ahead and get to work. I think you wanted to share PowerPoint.
I'll do that towards the end, possibly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's go ahead and get started. So how did you get started in real estate? Like, period.
Well, first, I mean, most people will say, reading up and getting the knowledge, but before you even do that, you really got to have the mindset of wanting to get into real estate and knowing that this is something you really want to do. Because there are a lot of folks who do a lot of reading or a lot of listening to podcasts, and they have all the knowledge in order to make that first step, but just never do it. And in the industry, we call that analysis paralysis, basically where you're doing a whole bunch of research, a whole bunch of reading, but you never make the first move. And I know a lot of folks who are in that position because they just don't have the mindset of really, all right, this is something I really want to do, something I want to get into, this is good for me, and the outcomes will be great. So making sure that you're in that mindset, making sure that you've talked to folks and just kind of talking to yourself. Like, people can't really help you get yourself into the mindset. You kind of really have to get yourself into the mindset of that this is something you want to do before doing it, because buying homes or houses are pretty much the biggest expense you'll ever have in your life. And so it is a big thing to take on, but it's never something too big for you to tackle. So other than, getting that mindset, there are a couple books as far as getting your mindset in order. One of my favorite ones is As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Probably one of my favorite books in regards to getting your mindset in order. It is called As a Man Thinketh, but it's great for women as well. And some of the best investors that I know are women. So definitely would get that book to get started on the mindset. And afterwards, I would say is the knowledge. Their knowledge or the information is out there. It's free. It's readily available. Or you can pay a mentor to guide you and show you the steps so that you don't make any faults and mistakes on your own. One thing that I did myself when I was learning and trying to get into the real estate realm was listening to a Bigger Pockets podcast every single day, one episode every single day. And it helped me definitely in a large manner. And I would definitely recommend, if anybody that's serious about getting into real estate or getting into multifamily, is to listen to one episode daily along with reading books or talking to others and networking. I guess, should I stop at any point, or is there anybody has any questions? Okay.
Yeah, however you want to do it. Like,
yeah, I mean, the best thing that I can tell people is basically how I did or how I got into it.
right.
And the first thing, I mean, my father, he's in real estate, so that was kind of something to leverage and lean on. However, he's more of an old school approach. He has a more conservative approach to real estate as opposed to how I did when I first just jumped in. So I would definitely say I've definitely read a lot of different books. I have a pile of books over in the corner in my little library of my condo that I've just kind of gone through. And I think I read maybe 36 books in a year, the year that I knew I wanted to get into real estate, just because I kind of hit the ground running. So after the mindset and after the knowledge, pretty much I have a website that I just launched, thinkingrich.info, where you can grab plenty of information in regards to real estate or personal finance or any type of passive income that you would like to dive into, mostly drop shippings, because that's what I kind of do right now as well. But I would say some of the top real estate books, if we get back on track, is The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, which is by Gary Keller, who is one of the founders of Keller Williams Realty. He has a plethora of books that are just amazing to help you get started and know what to do as far as getting into real estate. So Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller, the book on flipping houses by Jay Scott, and I'm just kind of going this off the top of my head, are great books. Of course, everybody knows Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It doesn't give you the nitty gritty or any of like the instructions in the real estate, but it does set that groundwork of letting people know that in order to build wealth, you pretty much have to have some sort of real estate going on with yourself. I mean, some folks have done it with purely stocks, but that long-term, steady, and set way is mostly just real estate investing. So I really encourage everybody to get into real estate some way or another, and make that daily task and a mindset of reading or listening to a podcast every day, and networking, going to your meetups. If you check online, there are definitely meetups in your city in regards to real estate meetings. Bryant and I, we used to go to one together on Thursdays across the street from me at a Mellow Mushroom with a bunch of like-minded individuals or folks who are looking to get into real estate every Thursday. And so there's definitely usually one in every city. Definitely check out Meetup app, or just looking online for your local real estate investment group, to just kind of get in that realm, or in that environment of real estate investing. Excuse me.
I host one now too.
What was that?
I host one now too.
Yeah, so it's definitely resources and other people out there to leverage as far as getting into the mindset and getting into real estate. I would definitely say the podcasts have helped me a lot, probably the most. Probably maybe 60-70% of the things that I know now are from the Bigger Pockets podcast. They're on YouTube, or you can download the podcast app. And I was just listening to an episode a day. They're about an hour or so long. You can speed it up to where you're listening to it at 1.5 listening speed, as long as you're catching it and paying attention and taking your notes. And then so the thing about multifamily exactly is, I have a lot of folks who reach out to me and they've never invested in real estate, and they say, I want to get into straight multifamily. I want to own a 20-unit complex as my first building. And, it's not impossible, but it's kind of like, diving in the deep end, and not saying that you can't learn to swim as you go, but it's definitely a lot harder on yourself, a lot more stressful, a lot more work. Of course, it's a lot more revenue. People see the upside of it, of having multiple tenants to kind of carry the mortgage or the expenses on the property. However, it is, if you have 20 tenants, that is 20 more people that you have to answer to, or 20 more people that you have to deal with, even if you have property managers. But even get into multifamily, I jumped into multifamily after having maybe 5 or so properties already. And so I kind of had that backing of knowing how to handle different single family homes before jumping into multifamily. Now, I do have some friends who jumped right into multifamily investing, and I don't at all deter folks from it. It just got to be sure that you're on with the wherewithal of what you need to know in regards to multifamily, as far as the right type of property management. Things is like lawn care, maintenance care. When you're dealing with property management, the insurance is definitely a lot higher on the building for property management, and you're dealing with a lot more tenants who are probably, depending on where you're starting out, I think I would say mine is like maybe a Class C apartment building. There's Class A or Class AA, A, B, and then Class C. So mine's in a like working class community, never too much noise or anything going on. But the tenants, every once in a while, one tenant may be late. But the great thing about multifamily is that you have the other tenants to kind of carry and hold things up if the one thing is not working out well. And let's say for analyzing deals, the great thing about multifamily or analyzing real estate is it works across the board on single family, townhomes, duplexes, quadplexes, or even 10 units and up, for the most part. When you're in small multifamily down, like say 10 units and below, it's pretty much the same. When you get anything above that, then you might have to factor in other variables. But I do have a spreadsheet that's on thinkingrich.info that will help you to analyze different real estate deals, help you get the cap rate, the running profit, to have any type of vacancy reserves. All of that is factored into analyzing any type of real estate deals. And I can actually probably show that at the end of this, just so folks can get a look of what the spreadsheet looks like to analyze any real estate deal from single family up to 10 units, maybe even more, as long as you have the numbers down packed. And so it's very helpful. And one thing you can't do when investing in real estate is get emotional over a deal or get emotionally tied to a deal because you've already imagined what you're going to do with the property, all the money you can probably make from the property, or just that falling in love with the deal or falling in love with real estate because it's never going to fall in love back. So I know a lot of things I've definitely messed up maybe one time on buying a deal that wasn't as profitable, a little more of a headache than I wanted to take on. And it wasn't a multifamily property at all. It was actually a single family house that was rehabbed by another investor who didn't do that great of a job in the renovations. But as long as the numbers work using the spreadsheet for multifamily investing or analyzing deals, you can definitely figure out whether a deal has the green light or not. And if it doesn't, then you need to leave it be, leave it alone. Don't try to see, oh, I can do this, that, and the third. Numbers don't lie. And I always just stick to the spreadsheet on whether I give things a yes or a no. Want to take a little break just quick, just in case you want to say anything.
No, I mean, that's 100%. Like a lot of people, like that's why most realtors anyways, or it's the difference between a residential family home and then an investor home, because you have emotions tied up in that home and you could pay more for it. But in the investor space, it's about numbers, and if you go without getting into those numbers, or if that numbers don't fit, you still try to force it based off emotions, and that's when you start getting hurt. So yeah, 100%.
And then even with that, you have to understand that you're not buying this property for yourself to live in. So your standards of living versus someone else's standards of living may be completely different. Just because you yourself wouldn't live in it doesn't mean somebody else doesn't think this home is beautiful or this location is perfect. I mean, of course, location is very important. Most folks, want to live in different neighborhoods for various reasons, close to work, close to their kids' school. So you have to really think of not yourself in mind, but who your consumer is, because even in real estate, it's still a business. It's still have clients or still have consumers, folks who are going to be renting out your property, or if you're flipping, somebody who's supposed to be buying your property afterwards. Don't get too emotionally tied of what you would want in the property, more so of what other folks are looking for in the property, because you could like the property as much as you want. And if other folks don't like it, it's going to sit and you're not going to make the money that you want. Or if you spend too much making the property too nice, then you're not going to get the rent to kind of cover the expense or the new mortgage or the for the area that it's in. So you never want to overdo it. And by all means, that's why I always use my spreadsheet, just because the numbers don't lie. I look for at least $300 in cash flow for any of my rental properties. And luckily I've been able to hit that mark and then some. In regards to that, I've grown my portfolio to about 16 units right now, which I think is fairly good at the age of 29, and starting at the age of 22. Definitely slowed down over the years, but it's been a good run. So I would say in regards to multifamily, there are different ways to get in. If you're doing anything over 4 units, you're going to definitely have to put a lot more money down unless you find some type of creative financing, such as seller financing or a private lender or even hard money. But even with hard money, most of the time, the down payment is around 30%, or even with conventional financing with the bank, the down payment is usually around 20-25% on, this is for 5 units and up. Now, if you find a quadplex or a duplex or a triplex, you can definitely still buy that as a primary residence and using an FHA loan to put 3.5% down, as opposed to having to put 25 or 20% down. So you can find a fourplex, quadplex, and say it's $300,000, and just throwing that number out there, $300,000, you can put 3.5% or 5% down and not have to put down the full 20%, and still live in 1 unit and have the other 3 units rented out and be getting a great cash flow on that. I have a friend who bought a triplex. They rented out the other 2 units, and I think it was a 2-1 in each of the units. So that's 6 beds. They rented out 2 of the units, and then in the unit they lived in, they also rented out the bedroom. or one of the bedrooms. So they had a roommate. So money just boom, boom, flowing in. Mortgage was covered maybe 3 times over. So the amount of saving they were able to do, just because they were willing to make that sacrifice of not just buying a single family and also making that sacrifice of having a roommate, even though they were already making cash flow off of the other 2 units that were renting out. So it kind of just, depends on preference as far as what you want when getting in. I know for some folks who are really set on getting into the multifamily as their first deal, it kind of sets you back because you have to save a lot more money in order to get into that first multifamily deal, as opposed to you may have $10,000 or $15,000 sitting now, but in order to get that multifamily you have your eye on, you need $30,000. So that time frame of you just sitting there and saving your money to get to that that amount of money that you need in order to get the multifamily, you could have been purchased a single family house and rented that out. And that way that would have been cash flow for you to save more money in order to get to the multifamily. So I always say, get what you can now, because you never know what's going to happen in the future. Like, get that cash flow now. It's going to make a huge difference to how much you save, how much you're able to invest in the future. And it can definitely help out in having that extra cash flow in order to run up your savings even higher, much quicker. Yeah. And that's kind of just my take. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I love it. And you tied it into what we were talking about earlier this week. He has a straight 9 to 5, and he owns, 20 plus properties, but he still has a 40,000. He lives in the $40,000 apartment, and then he still rents out another room. And so, 400,000? That's about $700 note. He's still renting that out, and he's still building that cash flow.
Well, you said 400,000 or 40,000?
40,000. My bad.
Oh, okay.
He's like, hold on now. Yeah, $40,000 apartment, and so yeah.
I mean, it really just depends on the sacrifices you're willing to make.
Yeah.
And that mindset. It's really the mindset of, I'm doing this for the future. And I know we want to all enjoy the now. And one of the things about being patient or being able to wait is that you get a greater outcome when you're able to think about your future. And even one of the things that's going viral right now is the fruit challenge with the kids, which is an old psychology experiment where they leave, something very tempting in front of the child and see if they're going to eat it. And if they don't eat it by the time they get back, then they get extra. And so it's kind of like, if you're able to make some sacrifices now in regards to your living situation, or in regards to just investing in real estate as a whole in general, as opposed to, getting a nice new fancy car, spending on clothes, or simply buying a property for your own personal use, because even then that's a liability. We learned that on Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that the house that you live in is a liability, because liabilities take money out of your pocket, and assets only put money in your pocket. So even if you have a property that you're living in, you're paying the mortgage out of your own paycheck, you're paying the utilities out of your own paycheck, that's a liability. And sure, it may have that appreciation, but appreciation isn't guaranteed. Appreciation isn't helping you in the now. Appreciation is only helping you if you were to refinance and get the cash out, or if you were to sell later on in the future, but it does nothing for you in the moment. Whereas if you get a cash flowing property, every month you're getting $300-$400 from this property, that is pretty much a raise to the 9 to 5 you may already have. And even like you said, the interview from last week, he's still working his 9 to 5. I'm usually in and out between working 9 to 5s. I have one now, and plan to kind of keep it for a while, because it's just so much more leverage that I can do in having this 9 to 5 and investing in real estate, as opposed to just being a full-time real estate investor. And I do enjoy the full, the freedom. I've done, I've been a full-time real estate investor where I didn't work any other job twice. And I want to say I did maybe between 6 to 9 months at a time, both times, where I was just solely full-time real estate investing. And it's great. You make your own hours, you have your own lifestyle, but then certain things that you want to do, such as like refinances or working with banks to get conventional financing, it gets a lot tougher when you don't have that that W-2 income backing you. And so I would definitely say, as much as you want, you can own 40 properties and have that cash flow coming in and still have the 9 to 5. Like, it's not an issue. It's not overwhelming. You can hire help. Property managers are a great help to how I can have my portfolio, because my portfolio stretches from South Florida all the way up here to Atlanta. And just property managers just have helped me in order to maintain my portfolio and not feel overwhelmed, and still be able to do great at my 9 to 5 and still have that cash flow coming in as well, and maintaining my life. So it still feels great. I would definitely say keep your jobs, because you have a lot more flexibility and freedom in getting into real estate investing when you have that backing of the 9 to 5, and then you just have the freedom of your lifestyle when you have that real estate cash flow coming in. And so, yeah.
I love it.
I
And
would definitely say that.
I'm a very observant person. Like you mentioned, a car is a liability.
Yeah.
And every time I'm around you, I'm like, dude, he always Ubering places. I'm like, he doesn't have a car, but he has all these portfolios. You don't have a car, right?
Nah, I don't have a car.
Right. So he positioned himself. You're in the heart of the city, so everything you need is right there.
Yep.
And if you do need to go somewhere, quick, $20 Uber, but you don't have car insurance, which is a monthly expense that's horrible. You don't have a car note. You don't have car maintenance.
Nope.
And so that eats up easily $1,000 a month.
Yeah, no gas.
No gas. Yeah.
I mean, even my Uber expense, well, I take Lyft actually, just because it's linked to Delta, and I'm a frequent Delta flyer. So
another gem.
Yeah, you can link, just a quick tidbit, you can link your Lyft account to Delta and get Delta Sky Miles every time you take a Lyft. Little tidbit. But yeah, so I take Lyft everywhere, and because I'm in the heart of the city, I'm able to get places within 15 minutes max. And I want to say my Lyft bill every month is between $200 and $350 a month. And that's all in. So it's not like I have, a $250 car note, and then I have to pay insurance, and then I have to put gas, and then I have to get oil changes and things of that sort, or get tires rotated or tire fixed and stuff. And I mean, it's a slight adjustment. I won't say there's, it's 100% easy, because, you have to time when you call your Lyft so that they're outside when you need to be ready to leave. You can't just kind of go and be at it when you want to. And there are, maybe once every 3 months, I might rent a car just for like a road trip or something.
Right.
But even then, it just still doesn't add up to the price of owning a car. And the whole reason why I don't have one is just simply because I lived in New York after graduation, didn't need a car up there, was taking the train. And then when I moved to Atlanta, I was just kind of in that lifestyle of, not needing a car and kind of getting around as needed. And so, tried out the whole Uber thing, and it came out financially better or more efficient. And so I'm kind of just sticking with it. And even with the real estate, before I purchased the property for myself to live in, I had already owned 4 other properties. So I was, either living with family members or having roommates, renting places out. But I want to say I bought maybe four units, and I actually even purchased my apartment complex before I bought something for myself to live in. So in 2016, I bought a 10-unit apartment complex for pretty cheap, for $375,000. And even on the bright side, it was seller financing. So the seller at the time, he didn't, he was older gentleman, had kids who, for whatever reason, his kids did not want to get into real estate at all, because he was trying to basically give it to them. They didn't want it. And so he still wanted that monthly income, but was just at that age where he was kind of tired of dealing with real estate and stuff. So he just wanted the payments and not have to deal with anything else, because he was self-managing. And so, bought the property. Luckily, I had some money saved up. At the time, I was out of the country on a backpacking trip. So I was backpacking in Europe for 4 months, and I got a call from my realtor, and he was like, "Yo, I got this deal that I think you might be interested in. It's a 10-unit apartment complex, $375, and it's seller financing." When he said seller financing, I was like, wow, I'm not working at the time. This will be easy. All I got to do is basically pay my down payment and pay him, the mortgage payment every month. And, it's a cash flowing property. It was completely occupied, all 10 units. I want to say it was a mixture of 6 1-bedroom, 1-bath units and 4 2-bedroom, 1-bath units. And being able to just do the seller financing made the whole transaction much easier, to which point I fell in love with multifamily, and then at the same time kind of hated multifamily. And since then, I haven't purchased any other multifamily since then. I do aspire to get some larger complexes, maybe in the 50 and 100 unit apartment complexes, but that'll be, later down the line once I streamline a couple more processes, because it is a lot more work, a lot more expenses. Things like trash that you're paying for, you have to pay for a dumpster every month, or pay for, the lawn care for the whole entire complex, which is an expense in itself. And then, you probably have a little bit to higher turnover in apartment complexes, simply because folks do aspire to live in a home as opposed to living in apartments their entire life. So I may have folks who stay there for 1 to 3 years, but then after that they've either saved money to move and buy a house for themselves, or they just may be relocating and find another location. I do have some tenants that have been in there since I purchased the property from the previous owner, and they've been there and they've just been paying on time. They love the property. They don't want to move. They're older folks, and I love to have them because they're also kind of like the lookout. If anything's on the property, or anything's happening, they're kind of, hey, such and such is happening, or just good eyes on the property. When you have those older people who have been in the property for a while, sometimes it can be a little annoying and frustrating if they're just real chatty, or call you about any little thing. But I haven't met any of my tenants for any of my properties, simply because I just like the whole property management model. I don't like to get any phone calls on broken toilets, broken sinks, clogged this, clogged that. And so I use the property manager strategy in and out, except for on my Airbnbs. I manage those 100% on my own. I did have a cleaning service going by to clean the properties. However, I do clean the Airbnbs now on my own, simply because of this whole, coronavirus and recession thing. Things have been slowing down. So just to keep my expenses low, I've been going and cleaning the properties myself, which is not an issue. I'm in there in and out within, hour, 2 hours after I do the laundry and mop and all that stuff. And even with the multifamily, the 10-unit property, I took 2 units out of the 10-unit property and made them Airbnbs. And that has come out to seem even more profitable than renting them out as regular rentals, simply because the rate that you charge on a nightly rate you charge on Airbnb is much higher than the nightly rate charged on a regular rental. So that's because it's your property. None of my tenants, they're allowed to do Airbnb out of their units, but because I own the property, I can Airbnb out of it as much as I want to. And I haven't gotten any complaints from the tenants thus far as that, because you may get some issues if you have Airbnb guests throwing parties and stuff or disturbing the tenants, then you'll have some issues. But because where the property is located, it's not in a major city where folks want to throw parties or be rowdy and things like that. It's in a small town, so folks are really in and out. It's the capital of Florida. It's in Tallahassee, so most people are in and out, staying there due to either visiting the capital or some type of work at the universities, or once in a while, once a month, folks come for homecoming, and that'll probably be the rowdiest of times. But other than that, it's folks that are coming for either work or to visit their children at the universities. And so that's why this multifamily investing is just so versatile, because you're able to rent it out, or do like a split approach where you rent out some of the units on a 12-monthly basis, and then some of the units you put on Airbnb. And that has definitely been pretty good, because I want to say the 1-bedroom units were renting for about $650, pretty low in Tallahassee. So $650 a month to $700 a month on like a 12-month lease. However, on Airbnb, I'm seeing as much as $1,200, $1,300 a month just on one unit on that. And so that's why I'm not going to go ahead and make them all Airbnbs, only because of how volatile Airbnb. We can see that now with the whole travel industry kind of slowing down. But luckily with Tallahassee, for some reason, that property or just the location. Airbnb has not slowed down in Tallahassee. And me not being there, I do have a cleaner who cleans the property after every visit. But it's just one way to approach the multifamily investing. If you can, go seller financing, learn how to, talk to the owner as far as bring up seller financing if that's something that they haven't marketed. But if not, you can definitely do, private financing if you have, friends and family who have the money to, back you. Or you can go the conventional route. Just know that if you're not inhabiting the property and it's 4 units or less, then you do have to put down more money in most cases. And when financing for conventional, I would definitely say go with portfolio banks. And that's banks that mostly keep their loans on hand as opposed to selling it to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or to the secondary mortgage market. And for most folks who don't know, most banks like Bank of America or Wells Fargo, when they create your mortgage, 9 times out of 10, they're going to sell your mortgage to another person to service and collect those mortgage payments. You may still make your mortgage payments to Wells Fargo, the person who made your loans, but that's only because they're servicing it. But the actual person who owns the mortgage now is someone else. So a lot of the times, these big banks, they don't keep the mortgages on hand. They just want to make the quick money from the closing cost, from charging you that closing cost and doing the front leg work. But most of the time, they will sell your mortgage on the back end. Whereas portfolio banks, they're more like the community banks or the credit unions. They will keep your mortgage on hand. They don't do the selling, and they'll do the actual servicing and collecting of payments. And they're less stringent and more lenient on the qualifications or what needs to happen in order for you to buy the property. Whereas the big banks like Wells Fargo, they have to follow specific guidelines in order to be able to sell the mortgage. And which is why they're more stringent and usually a little pricier than the portfolio banks in regards to financing. Systems. What systems do I use? I like spreadsheets. I know a lot of folks use different systems or computer-based systems like Argus to kind of maintain in their portfolios. But I prefer the old, basically my property managers provide me with a monthly report basically on what expenses occurred, who paid rent, who didn't pay rent, and things of that sort. And then I just input it into the spreadsheet, or you can, download Argus, or if you have to pay for it, I'm not sure, to basically keep track of your rental portfolio. If you only have one property, then you can kind of do it manually with a spreadsheet. You don't really have to do any type of system and stuff, things of that sort. In regards to Airbnb, there is some systems that I use. It's still the spreadsheet, but even in Airbnb, you can track the performance and download, a spreadsheet of the performance of all your properties or your one property. I do have basically like a running spreadsheet of where I buy all of the furniture or all of the things that I need for the Airbnb. And so it kind of helps just to have that in order, and then also a checklist for the cleaner when she goes by or when they go by to make sure that certain things are checked off before they leave the property. That there's enough supplies, toilet paper, paper towels, make sure certain things are checked off and clean before they're able to leave the property. So having that systems in place definitely makes things a lot easier because you won't feel like you're a chicken with your head cut off, running loose and running wild. So systems definitely do help and makes the whole process of investing in real estate much more streamlined. I'm gonna take a little breather real quick. I feel like I'm doing a whole lot of talking. So if you would tell me what you think, or if you want me to touch on anything else before I go in. I touched on the management a little bit already.
Yeah, touched on the management. Did anybody have any questions about, I guess, just as you can see, it's like a lot of mindset and sacrifices that he's been doing over the years, and building up those different cash flows, and even from the car to the expenses to rent out the rooms. He's putting that money aside to later invest into real estate. A lot of people are not willing to do that. And then they're like, I don't have no money to get started in real estate. Well, you do. You just need to probably, reallocate your mindset or your structure your money to where you can, start saving a little bit each month in order to, get into that, even if it's not real estate, but whatever the case may be, we're talking for real estate purposes, real estate. But how do you?
And then even like I have a friend of mine who wanted to get into multifamily, but she didn't have all of the necessary funds to put as a down payment, and it also weren't really finding any great deals in the Atlanta market on multifamily. So one thing she did was she bought a fairly large home. I want to say 4 bedrooms, and she rented out each of the bedrooms. So she has 3 tenants, which is basically the same thing as having multifamily. If one tenant or one roommate, doesn't pay or needs to move out, you still have the other two in the house who are able to pay and make payments. And that's kind of just shifting the mindset of what you define as multifamily. Um, of course, it's not separate units where everybody has their own front door, but it's the same concept as far as revenue, and then your expenses aren't as high, and the barrier to entry into getting into just a larger single family renting out the rooms is not as high as the barrier to entry into actual multi-family investing.
Indeed.
I see we do have a question. How do you find your multifamily properties? So the 10 unit that I have, again, one of the realtors that I worked with in the past in Tallahassee just sent me an email and gave me a phone call and said, "Hey, I have a deal. I know you're a real estate investor. You might be interested in this property." And he sent me over the details with the basically like a cash flow statement. So basically, networking, I would say, is how I find my multifamily properties. Folks who know that I'm looking for my criteria. You definitely need to have your criteria when you're looking to buy a home, whether it's a single family or multifamily, because there's just so many properties on the market, and buyers agents will get frustrated with working with a buyer who doesn't know what they want. And that means from how many bedrooms, square footage, price, what area, if you can get it down to either certain neighborhoods, zip codes. Don't just say, I want a 3 bedroom in Atlanta. Like it's too broad of a search. So definitely having that criteria and letting folks in your network know this is what you're looking for. That way you have more properties or more eyes on the ground looking for things that you want and need. Other than that, you can check out different websites like LoopNet, LoopNet, was it .com, I think?
Yeah.
LoopNet.com for multifamily properties. Realtor.com is great for finding multifamily properties. You can even check on Zillow, but Zillow, I don't feel like has the best user interface for finding multifamily properties, but LoopNet for the larger multifamily deals, and then Realtor.com, let me see, has a great deal of the smaller multifamily properties. Yeah, Realtor.com. So networking, Realtor.com, and LoopNet are the best ways, I think, to finding multifamily deals.
Yep. Agreed. The free sites too. Like,
Free.
yeah.
You can always do a little ride by of the property before hitting up the realtor, just to kind of check out the area, seeing if the pictures are up to date, or what because Google Maps, you can look to see how the property of the area looks, but a lot of times Google Maps will be outdated.
Yep.
At least the street view. So you can definitely do like a little drive by if you're not too far, or if you know someone in the area, have them do a drive by. Not drive by look. Definitely don't go bothering any of the tenants and stuff. Trying to think what else to touch on. As far as the management piece, when you're dealing with management companies, they are charging a pretty, most of them charge a flat rate, which ranges from 8% of the monthly rent up to 12% of the monthly rent. And their task on how to handle to manage the property all, just differs on, the agreement that you have with them, from rent collection to handling any of the expenses or any, type of maintenance that comes up. So where I have it is any expense under $100, you guys can handle automatically without, emailing me or getting any type of approval. I think I'm going to raise that threshold just a little bit, but anything over $100, they do have to send me an email, say, hey, this happened. This is the quote we have, just in case. I'm like, all right, can we find another quote or find another vendor or shop around a bit to find a cheaper price in those instances. But for the most part, they handle all maintenance, all rent collection, any type of day-to-day communication with the tenants. Again, I haven't met any of my my tenants on any of the properties. Don't know, names. I might recognize names just from some of the reports that I get every month. But other than that, they don't know me. I don't know them, and I kind of like it that way.
Likewise.
Hey.
As long as you pay the money, I'm good. Sure. Yeah.
So we got another question. Should your annual income discourage you from investing? Of course not. Your annual income should definitely not discourage you because, I think one thing you shouldn't do is wait on your job to give you a raise. If you want to get a raise or increase your income, you take, the bull by the horns or by the horse by the reins, and you make that happen yourself. And one way to give yourself a raise is by investing your own money. I know a lot of times, so folks who aren't making as much money, you can definitely either start managing someone's property for them. Stuff that has to be like friends or family, unless you decide to get your management license. I think it's the CAM in order to manage other folks' properties for them legitimately. But if you have a friend or somebody who you know closely, will say, hey, could I manage this property for you? That way you can get the experience and also get the income. That would be a raise because you'd get 10% of the monthly rent, or if you want to charge 12%, you can. I know on management for rentals for Airbnb is anywhere from 10 to 20% of the monthly revenue. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot more money because a property that may rent on a 12-month lease on a regular lease, 12 months is maybe you could be like $1,500, but on Airbnb, you can bring in $2,800. And that just disparity, that difference, and you're getting a lot larger chunk for managing that. You can definitely go into managing folks' Airbnb for them in order to just, kind of get your foot wet into Airbnb. Or even, if all you can do is, all you can do is, not get into the multifamily, but you can get into, like I said, single family. Don't wait to have enough saved up for the multifamily if you can get a single family now, because that waiting is you not getting that additional income from the single family if you just went ahead and got it now. It's like getting an extra $300-$400 a month now versus waiting 3 years to get an extra $500-$700 or maybe even $1,000 a month from the cash flow on a multifamily house or property. With that extra $300-$400 now, you can do a whole lot more saving. That's an extra $3,600 to $4,200 dollars a year in savings. And it could even be more. I had a single family house that was cash flowing as much as $650 a month. And, depending on the type of deal you can find a great single family house to kind of boost your income into that next bracket or just basically that raise, as opposed to waiting on your employer to get you that raise or the income of desire. You just kind of go for it and get that income for yourself. Got another question on managing on Airbnb. How does that work? I have my own Airbnb now, my home. However, for the others, how is that done? I'm not sure if she means in regards to self-managing the others or managing with a management company for the Airbnb. But for myself, in my instance, I manage the Airbnbs myself. So it's pretty much the same communication as with the Airbnb that you have now. You basically messaging the guests, making sure the property is ready for them to check in. And I think the hardest part, or just the most tedious part about managing an Airbnb that you don't live in, is finding a cleaner if you're not going to clean it, making sure you're charging a a little extra than what the cleaner is charging you, just to manage for, you want to pay yourself for the time that you have to talk and discuss with the cleaner to send them the messages. That time is money for you, or that time is, time that you're working, so you need to be paid. And also for supplies. So a lot of times you need to pay for like toiletries or cleaning supplies. And so I'll usually charge maybe $15 more, $20 more than what the cleaner charged me to the Airbnb guest, just to accommodate for those cleaning supplies or just home supplies that the house needs to be equipped with. And so because I don't go by the properties that often, the cleaners will let me know like, hey, this was messed up, or this was damaged, or send me a picture of anything that may have happened. And that way I know to charge the guest, or to go back to the guest and say, hey, this was damaged, or this was messed up, and here are the pictures. And with that, Airbnb will, 9 times out of 10 give you the money, as long as you, bring it up in a decent time frame. It usually has to be within the time frame before the review period is up, and I believe that's 14 days. But even more than likely, you want to make any claims if there are any damages or for the management before your next guest checks in and before that 14-day period. So I think managing the Airbnb is a lot easier than managing, it kind of depends. I'm kind of getting tired of messaging guests all the time. So I kind of want to, either turn my Airbnbs into regular rentals, or just have somebody manage those Airbnbs for me. Just because I'm getting tired of the day-to-day questions of where is this? How close is it to this? Or can you give a discount? And just all of the communication, and having the text and stuff like that back and forth with the Airbnb guest on a weekly basis. But yeah, so the management piece on Airbnb really isn't that difficult. I think at one time I've had 5 Airbnbs, and was able to manage that, 2 being here in Atlanta, 1 in New York, and then the 2 in Tallahassee, along with helping my aunt and my father with their own Airbnbs. So I guess that's kind of 7 on the management piece. But as far as my own, I did have 5 at a time. And so the management is fairly simple. I told you, once you have a reliable cleaner who's, smart enough to check for everything, make sure nothing's missing, make sure that there's no damage done, and does a really good job at cleaning, then, Airbnb from a distance is fairly easy.
Indeed. 100%. Love it, love it, love it. And so, yeah, no other questions, guys. And Miss Richard just got, or he has a blog out there giving all this information about. I'm just reading it, going over credit, going over, different mindset shifts. Definitely check out thinkingrich.info. It is, if you need personal, okay. Definitely check out this site, or blog rather, and it's going to give you all the gems from his mindset shifts to further yourself into building generational wealth. That's right. At the end of the day, that's what we all, most of the time, all of us are looking for, that generational wealth to pass back and then leave a legacy. So definitely check out his site. He have all his contact information and stuff on there.
I think we just got one more question too, though. Somebody said they want to hear more about, I guess, my portfolio.
More about your portfolio.
So I mean, yeah, I can kind of dive into that for really quick. So when I graduated college in 2013, started working in New York at JP Morgan, and I was, gracious enough for that industry and finance, was able to get a starting bonus of, at the time it was $10,000 starting bonus out of college. And I was able to use that starting bonus to buy my first property down in West Palm Beach. So my first property, I was living in New York, used my starting bonus to buy a foreclosed home from Fannie Mae in my hometown of West Palm Beach, Florida, Riviera Beach, Florida. And so Fannie Mae had foreclosed on the home. They had already fixed it up and everything. So they rehabbed the property, nothing fancy or anything, but they They renovated the property and they sold it. They sold it for only what they were owed or what they were owed on the property. So they didn't even sell it for what it was worth, which was worth, I want to say at the time, this is a low income neighborhood. So at the time it was worth about 62, I think it appraised for. And they were only asking $40,000 for the home. And so I was able to use that money to put a down payment. I actually did private financing on that. I had an aunt who had some money on the side, and she was like, I want to make a little bit more interest on this. So she gave me the loan or the mortgage for the $30,000, and I paid her interest only for, I want to say, 3 years, interest only payments for 3 years. I want to say 10% interest on $30,000 is $250 a month. So I was paying her $250 a month, and I had a tenant in there paying $1,100 a month. And so that gap, or $1,100 and only $250 in mortgage, the cash flow was amazing. So as the first deal, I was in love. I knew I was on the right track. And then after 3 years, I ended up refinancing the property to do a cash out refinance. Paid off my aunt the money she gave me, the $30,000, and I think the property at the time appraised for $120,000. So in 3 years, the property went from an appraisal of $62,000 to $120,000, and I was able to get all of that money out, and then pay off my aunt, the loan from my aunt, and then I was able to still keep the property. So I have a new mortgage from a bank, still have the same tenant in there paying $1,100 a month. Property is being managed by a property manager and paying them $100 a month. So I'm getting $1,000, and now my new mortgage, I want to say, is around $500. So I'm still cash flowing, fairly decent off that property. After that, I went in and was saving my money because I was living with family in New York, in an attic, mind you, in New York City. So I was saving a lot of money on housing and was able to buy a couple more properties with my father. We went in on 2 deals that he had down in Palm Beach. So I was really just an equity partner, but I was getting, monthly payments off of that. And so that was a pretty easy deal because he did pretty much all of the legwork, and I kind of just put in money on the acquisition piece, and he would just give me monthly payments every month off of the rent. I ended up getting out of that deal, though, probably 2-3 years later down the line in order to buy this condo because I just needed some equity. But I've also purchased a townhouse in Tallahassee that I rent out to not students. I think they're actually just working class folks in Tallahassee, but they split the bedrooms. So it's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath townhouse that I rent out by the bedroom. And I want to say definitely a lot more money in renting out per bedroom. You're just kind of harder to find tenants who are willing to live with a stranger in the same house. But once you can definitely make a lot more money renting out per the bedroom. I want to say, even with that deal, that townhouse in Tallahassee, bought it in 2015, I think. And I want to say every year since graduation, I've purchased at least 1 property. So it's pretty good momentum. And I want to say the numbers on that deal in Tallahassee, on that townhouse, purchased for $59,000, pretty cheap. And then had it rented at first to college students and was making about $1,200 a month, and the mortgage was only $470. Now it recently just got appraised, or actually I had a buyer out of New York reach out to me on LinkedIn because they saw that I was the owner, and they offered me, I want to say, about $125,000 cash for the property that I purchased 3 years ago for $59,000. That had been cash flowing for such a long time. But I think he plans to possibly tear down the property. I think he's a part of some bigger syndicate to tear down the property and build a larger complex. So I turned down the deal. I actually said no to the $125,000, which is, some people say, oh, that's silly. You doubled your money in 3 years. Why wouldn't you get out? But it was more so of the long, I enjoy the cash flow from it. And also know that it's only up from here, basically.
Yeah.
I see the construction going on in the area, and a lot of folks are, building up in the area. A lot of new shops and restaurants and other apartment complexes are coming to the area. So I know the value in the property, if I just hold on a little longer, will definitely go up. I'm kind of on Warren Buffett's or not even Warren Buffett, because he sells now, but just on the don't sell the real estate, just kind of live off of it and keep the cow. So I would much rather do cash out refinances when there's a good chunk of equity in the property. Cash out refinance to get that equity out, keep the property though and the cash flow, and then have that money that you just took out to reinvest into another property. That was 2014. 2015, I bought another property. Can't remember which one. And in 2016 is when I bought the 10-unit complex. And that was with seller financing. I want to say that seller financing is up to 5 years. And then I need to refinance with either a conventional loan or with another private lender. But I'm hoping that he extends it, only because the rate that I have on it now is at, I want to say 5% with a 20 or 25 year amortization. And I just know 5% on a multifamily property is really good, because the interest rates on multifamily versus single family property is a big difference. It can sometimes even double what you think. I think rates right now on single family homes are in the 3s, just because of things are dropping right now with coronavirus, but rates right now are in the 3s. And I think if you wanted to get into multifamily investing, your interest rates will probably be in the 6, 7, maybe even 8% range. So I'm really liking the fact that he gave me a 5% interest rate on the seller financing for the multifamily property. 2017, I bought this condo, which wasn't for investment purposes, but because it's downtown, the appreciation on it has been fairly well. I want to say within the first year, I guess, of ownership, the appreciation has been up to, I want to say, around $50,000-$60,000 on the property, which is really good. I don't plan on selling this though, but I would love to rent it out at some point, just so I can get out of this. And then I've also purchased 2 properties here in Atlanta, 2 single families that I Airbnb. One was supposed to be a flip, but I ended up keeping it because the person I had staged the property did such a nice job. I was like, wow, and it took a little minute to sell. So I was just like, wow, this looks like a great home that would do great on Airbnb. And I saw the numbers I was getting off of the first property I bought to Airbnb. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to keep this in my portfolio instead of flipping it. And I'm in the process now of refinancing that property to get the money out that I put into acquiring and rehabbing it in order to get that money out. So yeah, it's pretty much all my portfolio. So that's about 16 or so units throughout my portfolio.
Indeed. Major respect. And under 30, 29 years old.
Under 30.
It's possible.
Definitely possible.
But look, we got so definitely want to thank you, Mr. Richard, for sharing a lot of gems with us today, mindset shifts to get into multifamily and investing in general. So definitely go back to, to thinkingrich.info to connect further with Richard. Definitely got a lot more gems that he can definitely share with you just in an hour time span. And then, if you want to connect with me, Facebook, just Bryant Miller, IG, Realtor Bryant Miller. If you want to get started as a realtor, YouTube, I got a video out there on my steps to get into the realtor space. I got a free case study on how I got started in real estate investing. Just go to workwithbryant.com and give you a case study. We'll shoot you an email with some steps. And then for this next session that we have, it's not on here, but I have a first time home buyer seminar right now at 12 o'clock. So how to buy a house in the coronavirus stage. So keep joining us right now at 12 o'clock. The link is down here at linktree//Bryant Miller. And then on Sunday, we have, as Richard was talking about, he has a property manager. So I have Ms. Rail Green. She's going to talk about how to manage other investors' property for a profit. And so that's all we got right now. I want to thank you. Super grateful that you took time out to speak with us today, Mr. Richard. I really appreciate it.
And quick plug, guys, check out the blog site, thinkingrich.info. I have plenty of the spreadsheets on there for analyzing rental properties, or even a spreadsheet for analyzing a flip if you wanted to get into flipping homes. Those are pretty great. Also have some great little hair ties. This company I started, it's a crown hair tie that opens up for little girls. Comes in variety of colors, gold, rose gold. Check that out as well. Great being here. Appreciate it. Reach out to me anytime. For those who have questions or want to stay connected, you can follow me on any of my online platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or even just subscribe to thinkingrich.info.
Indeed. Rest on here. Well, appreciate everything. Hope y'all got a lot of gems. Now it's just time to go and take action on it, because it is possible. And we will talk to y'all soon. I'll see you in a few minutes.
All right. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, boss.